John Fitzgerald Kennedy, 35th President of the United States. The youngest man ever elected to the highest office in the land. His life was defined by ambition, idealism, and the promise of a new frontier for America. John Fitzgerald Kennedy was born on May 29, 1917, in Brookline, Massachusetts, into one of the most influential and ambitious families in American history. His father, Joseph Kennedy Sr., was a wealthy businessman and diplomat, and his mother, Rose, a devoutly religious woman who instilled in her children a sense of duty and service. John, or Jack as he was known, grew up in a highly competitive environment, vying for attention and success among his 8 siblings. Despite his charm and intellect, young Jack was often sickly, plagued by a series of ailments, including severe back pain and other illnesses that would follow him throughout his life. Educated at the finest institutions, including Harvard, where he graduated in 1940, Kennedy was an avid reader and thinker. His senior thesis, Why England Slept, an analysis of Britain's failure to prepare for World War II, was later published as a book, showcasing his keen intellect and interest in global affairs. In 1941, following the attack on Pearl Harbor, Kennedy joined the U.S. Navy as the commander of a patrol torpedo boat, PT-109. In the Pacific Theater, he experienced firsthand the horrors of war. On August 2, 1943, Kennedy's boat was struck by a Japanese destroyer, cutting it in half and leaving Kennedy and his crew stranded in enemy waters. Despite his injuries, Kennedy led his men to safety, swimming through shark-infested waters to find help. His courage and leadership during the incident earned him the Navy and Marine Corps Medal for heroism, further cementing his image as a war hero. But the war also took a toll on Kennedy, leaving him with chronic back problems that would haunt him for the rest of his life. After the war, John Kennedy turned to politics, encouraged by his father, Joseph Kennedy Sr., who had long held political aspirations for his sons. In 1946, Kennedy ran for Congress in Massachusetts' 11th District. Young, handsome, and charismatic, he easily won over voters, beginning what would be a rapid ascent in American politics. In 1952, Kennedy took the next step in his political career, winning a seat in the U.S. Senate, defeating incumbent Henry Cabot Lodge. However, his political success was tempered by personal struggles. That same year, he underwent spinal surgery to address his ongoing back issues, a procedure that nearly killed him. In 1953, Kennedy married Jacqueline Bouvier, a sophisticated and intelligent young woman who would become one of the most beloved first ladies in American history. Together, they embodied the glamour and elegance of a new political dynasty. They had 2 children, Carolyn and John F. Kennedy Jr., and their family became the symbol of the American ideal, a modern version of royalty that the press would later call Camelot. But behind the idyllic family life lay a man with intense political ambitions. Kennedy's charm and good looks, combined with his intellectual acumen, made him a rising star in the Democratic Party. Yet, It was his speech at the 1956 Democratic National Convention that truly put him on the national stage, marking him as a contender for the presidency.
Let us go forth from this convention telling the American people that we have fulfilled our responsibility to the nation.
In 1960, at the age of 43, John F. Kennedy ran for the presidency, facing off against Vice President Richard Nixon. It was one of the closest and most hard-fought elections in American history. Kennedy's youth and charisma played well with voters, but it was the first ever televised presidential debates that truly changed the course of history. For the first time, voters could see the candidates face to face, and Kennedy's calm, polished appearance won over millions of viewers. His slogan, "A New Frontier," promised hope, change, and progress, a stark contrast to the Eisenhower years. In November 1960, Kennedy narrowly defeated Nixon to become the 35th President of the United States. Kennedy's presidency began with immense promise. His inaugural address called for Americans to rise to the challenge of the new frontier, a vision for a stronger, more just, and innovative America. The nation was at a crossroads, facing domestic challenges like civil rights and the ongoing Cold War abroad. Kennedy's presidency was also marked by his commitment to advancing science and technology. In 1961, he set America on a bold course by challenging the nation to land a man on the moon before the end of the decade. This challenge embodied Kennedy's belief in the power of human ingenuity and the American spirit. His leadership in this arena helped inspire a generation of scientists, engineers, and dreamers, and led to one of the greatest achievements in human history, the moon landing in 1969. But Kennedy's time in office was tragically cut short. On November 22, 1963, during a visit to Dallas, Texas, President Kennedy was assassinated as his motorcade passed through Dealey Plaza. The shots that rang out that day reverberated across the world, plunging a nation into shock and grief. The world mourned the loss of a young, dynamic leader whose presidency was filled with hope and promise. His death marked the end of an era, but his legacy would continue to shape the course of history. John F. Kennedy's life and presidency were brief, but his impact was profound.